to the political spin and the expensive lobbyist dinners. He's the straightest shooter on Capitol Hill.
I'm actually butt naked.
From Fox News and DailyCaller.com, please welcome the immensely popular and highly polarizing
The Key West butt tickler.
Tucker Carlson.
What's up, Tuck?
Oh, good morning, Bubba.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
When's your next? You're in Miami.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful over here, man. You should come. It's kind of a Latin influence.
What are you doing in Miami? I know that you've been to Miami tons before, but what are you doing in this? I mean, are you speaking? Are you getting like a $40,000 to do a speaking engagement? What are you doing?
No, I had to get one of my planes serviced. It's the Citation 10, and the place where I get my engines overhauled this year. So,
by the way, Citation 10s are like $50 million, just so you know.
Well, it's the fastest civilian aircraft. It cruises at 50,000 feet.
Right.
You can beat an F-16 until takeoff. Yeah, it's an amazing.
And you needed to get your engines overhauled because you timed them out because you just fly everywhere, don't you?
Well, we take it too fast. I mean, whenever you get right up near the sound barrier, it just places a lot of strain on the jet engines. Whatever. I don't mean to bore you with my little.
So what you're saying is like when your pilots could kind of inch back the boost a little bit to cruise, you're in such a hurry and so important that you got it full throttle, which causes you to go through your engines a little quicker because money's no object.
I literally have a lash, and I say, unless you want to feel the sting of this, forward throttle.
Like a bullwhip?
So I'm intimidating a little bit.
Have you practiced your bullwhip where you can sit in the back of your Citation 10 and almost bullwhip the pilot, just come within inches of, you snap it right before it hits his back?
I'm so skillful that I do what we call the Ray Charles, where I put on a blindfold.
Right.
And just put the cigar right in my teeth, and then I can literally take a cup of coffee out of my pilot's hand with that bullwhip.
This is like
on a good day.
This is like a rich person's penthouse letter.
It is.
Right.
It really is. We got Tucker Carlson on the phone. Tucker, obviously the two big news stories today, which is right on your power alley of expertise, would be one, Jon Stewart announces that he's leaving The Daily Show. Your opinion on that?
I've never been impressed by Jon Stewart. I know that everyone else is, so I'm an outlier on this question. But I've always thought he was an insecure little tool.
Really?
And,
you thought he was an insecure little tool?
Yeah, I've always thought that.
Have you been on his? Have you been on the show?
No, I know the guy pretty well, and quite well actually. And
I mean, personally,
I've never
he may be a tool, but I mean, the show was, a very good show.
Yeah, I never thought that. I thought it was kind of sad to watch the little monkeys in the audience, clapping.
So you thought it was? Did you think it was campy? I mean, did you think it was campy and contrived?
I just thought, I don't know. It depends how much you know about politics, but if you sort of follow it at all, it was, third grade level. It was just, he objectively is pretty funny, I always thought.
But, you got to understand, Tucker, not everybody, most of America doesn't have a Citation 10 in Miami right now getting its motors changed. Most of Miami are huge Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy fans, and that is what works, unfortunately.
No. I love Larry the Cable Guy, and I love Jeff Foxworthy. It's not that I'm too smart for Jon Stewart. It's just that he's a dishonest little tool.
Manson, over to you.
I thought The Daily Show brilliantly dissected issues the mainstream media, just glosses over.
Well, that's silly.
He told you that was silly.
Whatever. I mean,
Manson, Tucker's one of the smartest guys we know, and he goes, "That's silly."
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, I guess it's a matter of taste. I mean, you probably are a big Oprah fan too.
No, not really.
I'm not trying to argue out of that.
I'm not a big Oprah fan.
We're libertarians.
Kind of thing.
We're libertarians, whatever that means.
Right.
Manson, I'm so much a libertarian that I don't even know what a libertarian means.
Well, I'm not really sure I do either anymore. But let me just say, I was never impressed by Jon Stewart on politics.
Well, you called him an insecure little tool, as a matter of fact. What if he came up and punched you in the chest, wanted to fight you for that, for those terms?
It'd be pretty low. I mean, he's a little guy.
Tucker would destroy him.
Yeah, Tucker's 6'3". Tucker, what are you, 215, 220, 6'3", and you smoke Marlboros? I mean, you're the man.
I'm 6'1", and I'm 210, which is probably 20 pounds too much.
6'1", 210. Ned, he'll have a Marlboro hanging out of his mouth when he gives you a Clint Eastwood sidewinder, won't he?
No, he will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll call you back when I'm 60, which is where I ought to be, but...
Call me back. Your phone cut out. You would think being a zillionaire, you'd have like some kind of special gold connections in your phone that wouldn't cut out. You cut out. What you said? You said I'll call you back when what? Oh, got a little too hot for Tuck. Call him back, 25. We're just cooking with fire here, Manson. We actually need to get it out. like we don't do very good at this when we get a celebrity on the phone and he talks smack about another celebrity.
Yeah.
We don't efficiently get it out. Like we should have when Richard Marks was in here talking about John Maher. We don't have a publicist, but we should have gotten that out. It should have been all over TMZ and all that kind of deal. We didn't get it out.
We should have.
But we need to get Tucker, who's a very respected.
Well, and they've got a past. They've had flare-ups in the past.
They have they?
I believe so.
I need to ask him about that. They've had flare-ups. So now Tucker Manson says that you and Jon Stewart have had like herpes-like flare-ups in the past. What type of flare-up have you had with Jon Stewart?
Well, I never had a problem with Jon Stewart. I mean, I just, as someone who knows him, I had an argument with him once.
Well, we call
that's what I'm talking about.
We call that a flare-up. Can you call it a flare-up?
Well, I wouldn't call it a flare-up exactly. I mean, I'm not a fan of the guy. I don't know. I guess a lot of other dumb people are, but I'm not.
Basically, Manson calling you stupid because you love Jon Stewart.
I think he's just completely prejudiced against him. I mean, I may not agree politically with Jon Stewart's views, but I still think they do a good job.
Now, Tucker, are you mad because he's really, really done, been very successful on television, and you've had some shows canceled and stuff?
No, actually, I'll tell you precisely why I'm hostile to Jon Stewart.
Well, good, because I'm sick of beating around the bush. I want to get to. I mean, we could have done this 3 minutes ago.
Because I think he's a coward. I think he's a suck-up to power, and I think he is a guy who takes easy shots in a way that panders to his audience. I've never seen Jon Stewart say a single thing where he risked his popularity. I've never seen him use all the power he has to take a stand on behalf of anything that's controversial or unpopular with his audience. And I think that's contemptible. I think he lacks balls, and I think it's a total waste of the authority that he has. I mean, all these kids worship him like a god and believe everything he says, and yet, he's just a suck up to the conventional views of his world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Has he announced where he's going?
No, and I could care less. I'm serious. What a waste. If you have a platform, and you know this firsthand, if you have a platform and people are listening to you and paying attention to what you think,
you've got to piss people off and be polarized in order to be work.
You don't need to do it all the time. You can pander to your audience most of the time. I get it. You shouldn't be confronting people, every day. But every once in a while, you should say what you really believe, regardless of what people think. Like,
we do that. We do that, Tucker.
How do
you do?
Do you like?
I do too.
What do you think of John Oliver?
I've never seen John Oliver, so.
Who's John Oliver, Manson?
He has a show on HBO last week tonight, and he does all the issues that the mainstream media. He'll skewer Big Farm and he'll get in depth into stuff like that, and in a humorous way. He's like Jon Stewart is like John Oliver light. Oliver really gets into it.
What about Bill Maher?
He's a left wing jerk.
over to Tucker Carlson on the Bill Maher deal.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Maher, whatever. I mean, I will say one thing about Bill. I know Bill Maher. One thing about Bill Maher is he actually has taken a couple pretty unpopular positions because he thinks that they're really true. He went after Islam recently in a way that made all of his little liberal acolyte buddies uncomfortable, but he did it anyway because he believes it. Jon Stewart never did that a single time in 16 years.
Fox News is...
Yeah, I mean, Bill Maher does take some really good stands, but, he's just too left. He's too much of an Obama fan. I mean,
No, I totally agree. Look, I don't take him seriously. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I think he's totally in the little Hollywood cocoon where he, never meets ideas he disagrees with. I just think at least you can point to Bill Maher and say he said a couple things that are truly risky and bold, even if I disagree with them.
Fox News is Tucker. Fox News is Tucker Carlson. Fox News is Tucker Carlson on the phone. Tucker, who do you like in that whole arena of the Jon Stewart, Bill Maher, the Oliver guy? Not mainstream, but a little bit fringish. Who do you like? Who do you like? Is there anybody that you really respect? Be like, I like that guy.
Comedians?
Well, I mean, anything to do with whether it's a comedian trying to do a talk show deal, whether it's Jon Stewart, kind of in that arena. Is there anybody that you like at all?
Well, I mean, I like a lot of those guys. I mean, I think I don't know Jimmy Fallon, but I think Jimmy Fallon's really talented for sure. I think Jimmy Kimmel's really talented.
I like Jimmy Kimmel. a lot.
I always thought David Letterman was really talented. I don't think I'd want to have dinner with David Letterman.
Yeah, but David Letterman, that goes right along the template of he's never, ever taken a hard stance on anything. I mean, right? I mean, he never had.
It's a little different because, David Letterman is playing to the broadest possible audience.
So David Letterman's more of the entertainment, not polarizing shock deal, whereas Jon Stewart's kind of supposed to be that, right?
Exactly. I mean, Jon Stewart's audience was like 2 million a night. It was really small, actually. I mean, Jon Stewart's one of the most famous people in America, but his show was aimed at a pretty specific demographic. He wasn't trying to get every family in America.
He made a ton of. He
was the highest paid late night guy.
Was he really?
The highest paid.
How much?
I mean, it was something ridiculous, like $30 million or something.
Now,
he made a ton of money.
Tucker, how can a network? How can a network make money if they only have 2 million people watching and you're paying the guy $30 million? How do they make money on that, Tuck?
Well, I mean, presumably he carries the whole network. So, I mean, people go to Comedy Central because of Jon Stewart.
So in order to make that kind of grip, then you're going to have to be you're going to attribute for the success for the entire network, right?
He made between 25 and 30 million last year.
Wow.
It's why you buy the NFL. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? You buy the TV rights to the NFL, not necessarily because you make money on it, but because you can promote the hell out of everything else you've got during the games.
Fox News' Tucker Carlson on the phone. Tuck, let's get into the, of course, the Brian Williams deal.
Yeah, I like Brian Williams.
I like Brian Williams a lot, and I don't think this is that big a deal.
Well, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, look, Brian Williams Brian Williams actually is a truly funny guy.
I mean, Brian Williams is such a strong brand right now that yesterday, now we're not the smartest people in the room, but yesterday we were scratching our head and saying, name us the other two people that go against Brian Williams at the 6:30 national level. We couldn't even tell you who they were.
No, you can't. David Muir, whatever that is,
right?
And some other guy. No, I agree with you completely, and I used to work over there, and Brian Williams is like a nice guy. I mean, I don't think people who work for him directly like him as much, but everybody else in the building really, really likes him.
What are you trying to say? Is he a little bit
closet dick?
Is he a prick? I mean, is he mean to his people?
Well, I mean, TV is a tough business. I mean, I think he went through a lot of producers. Everybody always says that. He goes through a lot of producers, but who knows what that's about. I can just say my experience. I'm not an intimate friend of Brian Williams, but I know him just because I worked there, and I always liked him. And I thought, I don't share his politics, but I thought he was one of the wittiest people, probably the wittiest person I ever met in the news business, for sure. He's definitely talented.
He's a charming guy.
He is a charming. He's smooth. He's got great.
Charming. And by the way, when Leno was on his way out, Brian Williams put his name in to take that job, and they laughed at him.
Oh, that would have been. I think that would have been a good call, actually.
Exactly. It would have been a good call. I think he could have pulled that off. He's good enough to do something like that.
I think America loves this guy. He's smooth. He's got a good look. He looks like he's just. I don't know. He's very not real manly, but he's just right down the middle of being just conservative, but yet liberal enough.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine having dinner with the guy.
Yeah,
unlike David Letterman, who you wouldn't want to let into your house, as talented as he is. But anyway, the point is,
Tucker's big quote of the day is, "You can imagine yourself having dinner with Brian Williams, but you wouldn't even let David Letterman into your home."
Well, no, you would. I mean, and I admire David Letterman, really, really talented, but he's obviously a weird, creepy guy who doesn't like other people. But that's not my point. My point is that Brian Williams is a news reader, not a reporter, and I think that made him feel insecure. He was never out there, covering wars.
Never embedded or anything like that.
Right, exactly right.
And so you think that he was insecure with the fact that he was kind of a script, a rip and read kind of guy, and so when he had the first opportunity to kind of soup up a story, he did.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And what's the? I mean, should that be a 6-month sentence? I don't think so.
You can't.
I don't think he's ever coming. I don't think he's ever coming back. I mean, I kind of hope he is.
But you can't be a journalist and lie on your newscast.
But that's exactly right. You can't be a journalist and lie about the facts. You can be a great entertainment figure and lie about the facts, but you can't be a journalist. Now, I don't think that the nightly news anchors are journalists anyway. They're just people who read 11 minutes of scripts. Literally, probably reads 11 minutes of scripts per night and makes $10 million a year.
Sign me up.
It's a cake
$1 million a minute per night. Yeah.
Sign me up, Tucker. Right? I mean, even you, as rich as you are, would take that gig, would you not?
Are you kidding? Yes. I would take that gig. And then you just sort of ponder. I mean, look, the guy is much better at reading news than I am. That's for sure. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have major skills. He does, absolutely. But they're not journalism skills. They're something else.
So, Tucker, let me ask you a question. Because you had your own show, the ins and outs of a show that's not, yours was not rip and read. Yours was highly opinionated, so which means more research and more things like that. But when you're a rip and reader like Brian Williams, and let's say your airtime is 6 o'clock, what would Brian Williams' typical day be? Like, what time do you got to get there? 5:30?
I literally can't imagine. I think you just need to get there in time for makeup. I mean, you could do that job cold. I mean, you could just get in the anchor chair at 2 minutes of, adjust your mic,
and wing it.
And I think you could read that script cold. I mean, I know I could.
Because at the end of the day, man, there is no editorializing, there is no monologue, there is nothing that's opinion based. There's no handling of phone calls, anything spontaneous at all.
No.
It's just basically like you're a kind of a good looking robot that doesn't mess up when you're reading.
Exactly. You're selling your voice, your reading ability, and your demeanor, and what people think they know about you. And that's why this is such a devastating thing. People thought they knew Brian Williams. They thought that he was totally credible, honest, and they also thought he was something that's like an international man of mystery, a badass. He's been around. That was the way the NBC marketing department sold him.
Now, is he tough, though? Like if you had to fight him, who would win?
Of course he's not tough. No, I mean, I think he's look, here I am criticizing him. I love the guy. But
he goes, of course he's not tough. Of course he's a pussy.
Is to read scripts. I mean, I think he's really witty. The guy is much more talented than I am.
He's not fly fish. He's not fly fishing, smoking a Marlboro. He's not fly fishing and smoking a Marlboro Red in Central Park, though, is he?
No, they sold him the wrong way. They should have said Brian Williams is the smartest guy in news, which is probably true. He's probably way smarter than the other anchors. Right. I believe that. He gets it. Or so that should have been the tagline. Instead, it was Brian Williams has, personally trudged through the Hindu Kush with an AK-47 and slaying the Taliban. And it's like, no, you haven't, dude. You're from New Jersey. Be quiet.
So now, what's next? So, Manson, you're saying he doesn't return. Or I should say, Tucker, you're saying that he doesn't return at all. They say now he's suspended 6 months.
I think it's pretty hard. I do think it's pretty hard that, after 6 months they're going to say.
Yeah, but America is, first of all, we're enamored with a good-looking guy that's smooth. I mean, we've given people like Michael Vick and other people second chances.
And think of the hype when he comes back. It'll be a huge hype job. Yeah, back after 6 months.
That's right. Back after 6 months. Took some credibility courses, and now he's back.
Are people even going to remember do people remember anything from 6 months ago?
Yeah, but Brian Williams, man, there's not like there's any competition on his heels. He has branded himself so well. He does that crazy little rap thing now with Jimmy Fallon, and he's branded and done so well in Americana that we, who are kind of in the news, I mean, we read the newspaper every day and watch television. We couldn't even tell you who the CBS and the ABC people were, and we're 40-some years old men.
Exactly. But here's the problem, is the things that he's best at, which is slow reading the news and rapping and, being on nighttime comedy shows. He's awesome at that. He can't do that for the next 6 months because that's not going to rebuild his credibility as a news anchor.
So does NBC then? By the way, Tucker Carlson, Fox News is Tucker Carlson, thedailycaller.com as well. Been with the show for well over a decade. We call him once a week just to get his real smart and kick-ass cynical spin on stuff. So does NBC bring him back, or does he go somewhere else and try to reboot? What do you think?
Honestly, I really don't know. I really don't know. In fact, I had lunch yesterday with a buddy of mine who's also a news anchor, a well-known news anchor, who is close friends with Brian, and we were talking about this, obviously, all through lunch, and he said he hadn't even talked to him. He's, like, despondent. He's like, I mean, imagine. You're Brian Williams. You're the top-rated news anchor in the world. You're making $10 million a year for really nothing. Everybody likes you. Your credibility ratings are really, really high, and then it turns out that you're an insecure Walter Mitty. You're a liar who's made up stories to make you sound tougher than you are, to hide the fact you're a wuss, and you lose your job. Like, is there anything more humiliating than that? I would be under the bed in fetal position. I would move to Paraguay and never come home. That's just too horrible. It's the worst thing I can imagine.
It's the worst thing I can imagine.
No, I'm serious.
Wow.
That's worse than a sex scandal.
I'm just sitting here listening to
that was brilliant.
No, seriously, what's the message? If I'm involved in a sex scandal, the message is, I'm just too virile to keep myself under control. I'm too much of a man, okay? That's the message of a sex scandal. The message of this scandal is, I'm a cringing little wuss who pretends I'm a man. Like, that's the worst.
I'm getting such great sound bites from Tucker. He is on fire today.
Brian Williams, he's burning so bad he just jumped out the window.
Yeah. Brian Williams needs to have Tucker be his life coach because Brian Williams hasn't heard any of this nonsense now, has he? Nobody's really giving it to him straight, have they?
It's straight, man.
I just feel sorry for him. And by the way, if you think of all the people in the news business who you'd like to see go up in a ball of flames, I mean, there are quite a few. Brian Williams would not be on the list.
No, absolutely. In fact, I love the guy.
Everybody likes Brian Williams.
Everybody loves him. That's why he comes.
By the way, can I say one last thing? I hate how the internet and Twitter and all the losers who are on social media take glee in his destruction. It's just there's the mob online is really disgusting.
That's exactly what it is too. It's the mob. It's the new form of the mafia, is it not?
It's just the screaming, howling mob of jackals. I mean, they're just disgusting. And
God forbid that we've given these people now an avenue to be heard. God forbid.
Yeah, there are some people who should not be heard. Sorry.
Tucker Carlson from Fox News. Tucker, what about the Dominic Strauss-Kahn deal? What's up with all that? I mean, this thing's getting pretty dirty, isn't it?
Well, the most hilarious part of this, he was the French finance minister who lost his job because he was accused of raping a hotel chambermaid. He's now involved in a sex trafficking case in France, and it turns out that at his meetings in the French finance ministry, they had orgies, literally group sex. And it turns out that the women who participated in this were prostitutes, apparently victims of human trafficking. And Kahn's defense is, A, I had no idea they were hookers. I thought they were doing this voluntarily because I am a sort of out-of-shape, saggy 65-year-old man. So, of course, I imagine that teenage girls would want to sleep with me just, for
because
free.
I'm so hot.
And B, it wasn't that big a deal because it didn't happen that much. We only did it 4 times a year.
So I thought they really liked me, and 2, the frequency wasn't even anything to worry about.
No, it was a quarterly thing. I mean, it's like we did this every week. It was just 4 times a year.
This guy's a real filthy.
I'm going to get into that. I got some testimony here. Tucker, what else you got for me, buddy? Anything else?
That's it, man.
What's on? Oh, you really are in Miami. When do you get your jet motors fixed? Is that you getting them back today or tomorrow?
They'll be done this afternoon. I'm just going to have lunch with some starlets and heads of state, and then just shoot back to my castle.
And be back for dinner with the kid. Oh no, I'm sorry. The kids go to a $100,000 a year boarding school. Just be you and Mama and your servants.
Yeah, they're in military school in Switzerland. Yeah, it's just going to be us alone in the Great Hall, and I can tell you, her laughter echoes through that thing across the cobblestones.
She going to have some sexy negligee with some F-me pumps, maybe.
Yeah, dude, of course.
Tucker, we'll talk to you next week, my friend.
You guys are the best. Thanks.
Bye now. Thank you.
See you, Tuck.
Man.
That was a good one.
We need to edit that, Manson, and distribute it to various news sources because Tucker is a very respected, talking head, if you will, very respected and very smart about television. Been in television now for 20 years. Access to the White House, political, various monologue shows he's been doing. I mean, he's the go-to guy on Fox, is he not? I mean,
yep.
Anytime they need an expert about anything, Tucker can wing it. And he really didn't have favorable things to say about either one of them.
That was a brilliant synopsis, though.
It kind of was.
It's like, yeah, I totally get it now.
You're trying to say my brain's messed up, aren't you?
Yes.
That's not inner turmoil.
It hurt like hell.
It's just knowing how to dance, kid.
Where's the dancing clubs at now?
The Bubba Radio Network returns after this.